So last year I lost about $100 worth of materials. They were all fluid materials that had gone bad. And so I did a little investigating about why they're gone bad, and it's related to the sealing of the fluid and the vapors at the top, at the cap. I performed a little bit of root cause analysis, and I'll just give you a sample of that. So I noticed that one of these other substances, the cap was not so tight that it performs sealing, and sometimes it requires me to put it on very tightly. So maybe on occasions the tightness is higher than I can even do with my hand, okay? And so then I'm asking, in what occasions is it requiring this very strong tightening force? And one of those occasions is when there's debris that is accumulated on those threads. Okay, and then I explored across many bottles, in which cases does the debris, I'm always attempting to be clean and neat and systematic, but in some cases it accumulates more than others. And here's something that I noticed. If there is even a tiny bit of dried fluid on the threads, then it rapidly raises the amount of torque you need to actually seal it to close it to a sealed state. But since we don't know just by looking and feeling if we've reached an actual sealed state, then we would just standard tighten it as good as you can while still being able to get it loose. Okay, so then there's if we always tighten it nicely, then the sealing happens. If we fail to seal it, then the little bit of liquid that is near and on the edge of the thread, the cap, that will harden and interfere even more and make the gaps worse and make the venting worse, causing a whole lot more of that near thread fluid to harden and make the problem exponential. In the world of PVC glues, this problem is so severe that they sell a tool. It's commonly recognized and distributed off the shelf. You clamp it onto the lid, you squeeze it with these two handles to enhance the grip, and then you turn. Between the activities of just using my hands to tighten and loosen these jars, between the many different jars, when is the occasion that I bust out the tool? That is specifically for loosening and not for tightening. And so that is a moment to pay attention to. Here's what I learned. As this cap gets messier, then it gets harder to put on. Okay, we put it on still, and then it cures while it's sitting, and it's harder to come off. So there's a certain moment where you need to have this tool or some kind of tool, and at the moment that you need that tool is the same moment when the debris has accumulated up to that critical point where it's just going to get far worse. If we use this tool only in the situation of removal, but not in replacement, then the problem will expand rapidly. Once you reach the point where you need this, then you have already got a substance that is going to expire rapidly, say 10 times faster than it would permanently sealed. That brought me to a stage where I implemented a policy. I said I will always use the tool to tighten the lids, not only to remove them. And then for certain lids like this one, this tool doesn't fit, and so I 3D printed an adapter. Because I have the design skills, I can do this quickly and easily, so it's worth it for me to build this adapter. It reduces the size of the tool. Okay, so the project isn't done. We're following the process of plan, do, check, act, always, on anything we do. I implemented this policy change, and I implemented a design, and now I have to take the following months and see how things unfold, make observations. This would be the checking part of plan, do, check, act, or PDCA. And that checking happens across many different substances and many different activities. And by the way, there's a time factor in that because several of these substances, the problem occurs after giving a month of waiting time where something has gone from liquid to curing and being part of the problem. So then I noticed on these bottles, it's in sort of a more extreme situation of the same. Once you fail to tighten it all the way, you're kind of donezo. On the other hand, I saw that I had testers, a few bottles of these that was still good from 15 years ago. And the paint performance compared to these other paints, this is one of the best performing enamels that, like, if you think this is just for models and so it's an aesthetic product rather than a performance of hardness and durability, no, it's great for performance. So then back to behavior. The behavior of always bringing this tool out wherever I'm doing a paint project or a mineral spirits project or a PVC project, that's too inconvenient and I simply won't follow the rule. So the question is, can we raise how much we're tightening the substances just enough so that we don't get that cycle of curing and becoming less sealed and also hard to remove? And that answer became a resounding yes. If we change this circle, instead of needing the tool, we change it to a shape that we can grip, such as a hexagon, then we can squeeze this on, even though there's deviating kinds of shapes on the cap a little bit, we can squeeze it, and with the hand squeezing force, I used this on my small jars for some time, and I found out that if I use the extra grip to tighten it, then they always turn out easy enough, months later, come to loosen it, and it will always be loose enough that I can do this whole thing without a tool. And trust me, there's times where these things get so tight that you need pliers to actually remove them.
Wait a minute, think about that. It means that if I close it tighter when I'm sealing, it is looser when I'm loosening. Not intuitive.
So now, separate from YouTube, I'll publish this geometry for free, this model on GrabCAD, and some people will discover it and be able to benefit. All right, so I've posted this open model, and then if the audience has their own 3D printer, then they just need the concept to benefit. They can have that value, understanding what's being done here just by including images of the part that's integrated in its solution space, not just the image of the model itself. Okay, if they have testers paints like this, then they benefit from seeing that root cause, that endeavor that I took to learn about this cycle of not tightening enough and then becoming harder to untighten. So then if I describe the problem that I'm solving in my open post, then just that description is the value for that person. And they might say, oh, I don't need this plastic thing. I'm just going to imitate the behavior and I'll pay closer attention to tightening up all my paints. That's going to save me money. Okay, if the person has no printer, but they've got money to spend, then the STL model, it's the fully rendered geometry that's just exactly this part. They can download that. They can send it to a print shop, and for $1 or so, they can grab my STL file that I've included, and they can get a solution for specifically this size of bottle. Now hold up, do they really need money? Because if this is $25 and this doubles the lifespan of this thing, and this doubles the lifespan of this, and this is $2,000, then you're getting paid. If the person has modeling skills, then I'm giving them a shortcut if I include the geometry, the actual, not just the rendered asset, but the geometry behind the asset, which lives in a CAD model, and the step file will suffice to deliver that value. And then if they have engineering skills, so they're maybe wanting to pivot this design, improve it, change it for another type of bottle, or run trials of their own to explore creating other models from this model. And so for them, the value that's included is the parametric model, the fact that this Design is equation based, and so it's a special type of model that has the dimensions linked to one another, so that you can just change a couple of variables and see it all change. That person with, let's say, a young engineer that wants to enhance their skills, they now have a functional working example model that simply is a lesson on how to make a regular model parametric. And the way they would do that is they would model up their own version of this, and then they would download my model, and then they would see the differences and what makes my upload, it's harder to break. You change one variable, one dimension, and the part adjusts and updates, and they can discover how that's done, so then they can boost their skills. Or in any case, at a much simpler level, someone that has SolidWorks, they can download my solid part file, and there's 3 variations built into this one single file. You can drop down, click the testers version, you can click the 35mm version, and it will create 3 separate versions, final, like ready to go in a second, and then they could crank out STL versions of that, the rendered thing that goes to the 3D printer to produce a physical part. Now, if the audience has a small business, like a printing business, or they distribute tools or something, then, by the way, there's thousands of those single-person businesses already, then they can have the full design. Not just the design STL, but the source of that design. And that includes where did it come from, who produced that, so that what they can do is they can download the models, and then they can see the author, or they can map this back to the OpenLab project at qr.net/OpenLab project. They can find if it was me that created it or peer community, and they can communicate with that person, and they could say, hey, is it true I can just download this and I can profit from that, and nope, it's no problem? And I'll say, yep. Or they can say, well, there's a couple hangups for me to be able to adjust this to actually make it sellable. Like, could you take a snapshot of it in this way? And then they can make an exchange of business. Oh, I'll give you some royalties or something like that. So the value is new collaborations. The value is making profits. The value is, and what I'm holding in my hands is an example part. This is a 3D printed battery adapter that I ordered like 3 or 4 years ago on Amazon. So this single maker with a couple of 3D printers in his basement, he is producing these things, a useful tool, and he has a shop. These things don't, they come and go, the demand for a specific type of model. So that kind of person is carrying multiple, they want to carry good quality stuff. They may not have the capability to design every single thing, and that everyone doesn't need to be a designer. So this is crucial. I add that into my post. It's connected to the individual person that is the source, as well as the story of the source. Okay, then if a person has a similar design, let's say it's an engineer like me, I've got all this work to do on my own, but sitting on my hard drive is a good project that I've created. Now, how do I unlock that project so that other people can benefit? Then the post itself becomes a method of documentation. How can I turn this thing that is not producing value into a thing that is producing value? How do I get a pat on the back from a community for doing an extra high level of effort on my thing, etc.? And so that would be my the full GrabCAD post, and it would be my maybe descriptions in openlab.org, whatever. And so because we have things like printables libraries where you can download gadgets, but we don't have the full stack open source hardware methodologies really established in our planet. And so now we have an example, and that's value just by itself. Okay, now since I took this journey, I discovered that these 3 sizes are extremely common, and that unexpectedly, I discovered certain cap sizes between the large fluids are all shared, very much simplifying the effort if someone wants to improve their whole cap situation. All right, and so there's 22, 45, and 35 millimeter diameters. Now, in this model that you're looking at here, 2 of the variations have been fully characterized, and so those are in the table of configurations, and I can swap between those 2. Exact same model, just a couple of different values have changed. So today I'm recalling this is version 2. I forgot even about doing version 1. And so the fact that I always put my version numbers, at least of some sort, on the actual STL models means if this winds up in the hands of someone, it's a clue that they could, wherever they got this, they could potentially go find the newer version. Or if they only find this one, then it's a clue that there's a whole story behind this design and that they could probably go retrieve more. Additionally, if my friend grabs this STL and one day he shares it with another friend, but then it's been separated from all the posts and all the authored data, then this version number is indicating the upright direction for printers when you put this on the FDM printer machine. And so that's one more clue that will more likely make them successful at printing this out. When it comes to this whole business situation, I personally don't have capacity or interest in pursuing that endeavor. It's a whole lot more work to produce that more value that comes in the form of money, revenue for such a business as this. But remember, all of our intellectual property laws and systems and even the knowledge carried by lawyers and so forth, it was all based on a world where it was impossible to get connected, or very, very unlikely that you would get connected with the person that authored a design. And that's in the past. Now it's very, very possible to get connected. And this is how software exchange, free exchange of software evolved, because you can forget about the business people and the lawyers and all the structures that stand in the way of one designer, one creator, maker communicating with another. Those don't matter because we have the internet now. And so that sort of free distribution, it doesn't have any significant impact on me. And for someone else, it might, and then they can choose not to do it. And there's no problem whatsoever. But if now somebody wants to fully own, fully close off a design for a similar situation, a similar solution, then they still have to compete. They still have to outperform whatever I've distributed for free. They're going to have to make it much better than that. And it's a good thing. So you have next year, somebody does a better design privately and holds on to it and distributes it. That's a $5 product that you can buy at the store, while this one is the free product that you can print for 30 cents. And both of them should exist. Both of them should exist, because then we create more benchmarking opportunities, more opportunities to see someone else looked into this problem, formed a solution, and the knowledge that they discovered on that journey is now becoming manifest, and then we can compare. And while we build things for free, while we share things openly, we can easily retrieve those ideas from the capitalist world and just level up continually. So I know for a fact some people are asking in their heads, David, you're so talented, you're so well educated, why would you spend your time on such a trivial problem? Someone else could do that. Or you're not getting paid, why would you just do it on your own? And I would ask them, like one of my peers in mechanical engineering, okay, if you saw a problem that you encountered at age 35, and you could recall back that you also had that problem at age 10, and then you could recall back that your father had that problem, and then you traveled to Asia and you lived in Asia and you saw that those people have the same problem. It doesn't matter what qualifications it requires. It certainly doesn't require a Master of Science to solve this problem. Well, I don't want to live in a country where We go to the moon twice, and we still have to deal with these small problems that could have been solved a long time ago. It's an embarrassment to our economy. It's an embarrassment to the name of mechanical engineers in the world. And there are 1,000 more problems just like it that it's time to get them solved.